A lot of people think they have a money problem, but let's be honest, that's not always the truth. A lot of people have an emotional control problem that shows up through money. That's the real issue here. You say you want to save. You say you want to invest. You say you want to stop being reckless with money, but then you get stressed, bored, insecure, lonely, frustrated, or just mentally drained, and suddenly spending feels justified. Now it's food delivery, random clothes, gadgets you did not need, a night out you cannot afford, or some dumb little purchase that makes you feel better for 10 minutes. That is not financial strategy. That is emotional reaction. And this is where people get themselves in trouble because they keep trying to fix a behavior problem with surface level money advice. So in this video, I want to break down why emotional spending actually happens, why it keeps people stuck for years, and how to stop it in a smart way that actually works in real life. The reason this matters so much is because emotional spending usually does not look dramatic in the moment. That's why people underestimate it. It does not always look like one giant financial mistake. Most of the time, it looks small, it looks normal, it looks harmless, it sounds like I've had a rough week, it sounds like I deserve this, it sounds like it's not even that expensive. But when you stack those little emotional decisions over months and years, that's where your money disappears. And now it's even worse because the whole world is designed to make you impulsive. Social media keeps showing you people who look richer than they are. Brands sell you identity, not products. Apps make it one click to spend. Buy now, pay later made broke people feel rich for a weekend. So now you've got people living in this weird cycle where they feel behind, then spend money to feel better, then feel even more behind because they spent the money. That loop is destroying people. You've got one type of person who uses money to manage emotion, and another type of person who uses systems to protect their future. The first guy keeps looking like he's doing okay. The second guy quietly gets free. That's the difference. Staying broke while looking fine is still broke. And if I'm being honest, that's where a lot of people are. The first behavior is the most obvious one, and it's probably the one you've done the most. Spending to feel better. This is the classic emotional spending pattern. You had a bad day, so you buy something. You feel stressed, so you order food. You feel bored, so you start browsing. You feel empty, so you convince yourself you need a reward. The purchase is not really about the thing. It's about the feeling. You want relief. You want stimulation. You want a little hit of control. That's why emotional spending is so sneaky. It feels like you're buying a product, but what you're really buying is a temporary emotional shift. The problem is your brain starts learning something dangerous. It starts learning that discomfort should be solved immediately, and money becomes the tool. So every time life gets heavy, your instinct is not to pause, think, or regulate yourself. Your instinct is to spend. That is a brutal pattern because it means your wallet is now tied to your moods. And if your moods are unstable, your financial life will be unstable too. This is what keeps people stuck. They are not just losing money. They are training themselves to be weak around discomfort. If I were you, I would stop pretending every purchase is logical. I would start asking a better question before I buy anything non-essential. What am I feeling right now? Because that question exposes the truth fast. A lot of spending dies the second you become honest. And the easiest fix here is simple. Put a delay between emotion and purchase. 24 hours minimum for anything you do not need. Not because waiting is magical, but because it breaks the emotional spell. Most impulses are strongest in the moment and weak a day later. If you keep spending every time you feel off, your bank account will always pay for your lack of self-control. The second behavior is insecurity spending, and this one ruins people because they don't even realize they're doing it. A lot of purchases are not about enjoyment, they're about image. People buy things to look successful, look attractive, look disciplined, look important, look like they're not behind. Nice clothes, expensive dinners, car upgrades, watches, gym gear, the perfect apartment setup, random luxury habits they cannot actually afford. And again, the product is not the real point. The real point is what the purchase says about them. But psychologically, this comes from uncertainty. When people do not feel solid internally, they start trying to create proof externally. They want social signals. They want visible evidence that they matter, that they're winning, that they're not falling behind in life. That's why some of the worst financial decisions people make have nothing to do with math and everything to do with insecurity. They are trying to buy confidence, buy status, buy identity. But the problem with that game is it never ends. Because if your confidence depends on the next purchase, then your peace is always rented. This hurts your future because you end up building an image instead of building actual stability. You look put together, but your savings are weak. You look expensive, but your investing is non-existent. You look successful, but one unexpected bill would punch you in the chest. A lot of people are not building wealth. They're building a costume. And let's be honest, trying to impress people who are not paying your bills is one of the dumbest financial traps you can fall into. Here's the question that kills insecurity spending fast. Would I still want this if nobody saw it? That question is brutal, but it works. Because if the answer is no, then you don't want the thing. You want the reaction. And that means the purchase is emotional, not practical. Rich looking and rich being are not the same life. One guy wants the photo, the other guy wants the freedom. Pick carefully. The third behavior is scarcity thinking, and this one catches people who are trying to improve but still keep sabotaging themselves. This is when you save money for a little while, you get a little momentum, maybe you finally have some extra cash, and then out of nowhere you blow it. You binge spend, you justify it. You tell yourself you earned it, you say life is short, you say you never treat yourself, you say it's only this once. But deep down, what's really happening is you do not trust money to stay, so you rush to enjoy it before it disappears. That is scarcity psychology. When someone has spent a long time feeling deprived, unstable, or behind, money feels temporary. It feels fragile. So instead of protecting it, they consume it. They act like every extra dollar is a chance to escape pressure, not build peace. This is why some people can make progress for 2 weeks and erase it in one weekend. They are not just bad at budgeting. They are uncomfortable holding money without immediately turning it into pleasure that destroys self-trust. Because after enough cycles like that, you start seeing yourself as inconsistent. You start saying dumb stuff like, I'm just bad with money, or I can never stay disciplined. But the truth is your behavior makes sense. You just haven't fixed the psychology underneath it yet. One person sees extra money and thinks, finally, I get to spend. Another person sees extra money and thinks, finally, I get to breathe. That mindset difference changes everything. The smart fix here is not to become super strict and never enjoy anything. That usually backfires. The smart fix is controlled enjoyment. Build a guilt-free spending category into your life on purpose. Small, clear, capped. That way enjoyment exists, but chaos does not. Because when people feel like they can never spend, they usually end up snapping and overspending. The whole point here is not to make you miserable. The whole point is to make your behavior predictable. The fourth behavior is comfort addiction, and this is a big one in modern life. A lot of people are not emotionally spending on flashy things. They're emotionally spending on convenience. Food delivery because you don't feel like cooking. Uber because you don't feel like waiting. Extra subscriptions because you want easy entertainment. Overpriced quick fixes because planning feels annoying. This is where people get themselves in trouble because none of these purchases look serious by themselves. But together, they quietly destroy your margins. The psychology here is simple. You get used to removing every little inconvenience from your life. You stop tolerating effort, delay, friction, and discomfort. And once that becomes your normal, you start paying to protect your mood all day. That is expensive. Not just financially, but mentally, because now your lifestyle depends on ease. And the more your life depends on ease, the weaker you get when life requires discipline. This is why a lot of people stay stuck even when they earn more. More money just funds more softness. That's the trap. People think higher income automatically leads to progress, but if your standards are built around comfort, then every raise just gives your bad habits more room to breathe. You don't need more income if your behavior is leaking money in 10 different places. If I were you, I'd go through the last 30 days of spending and circle every purchase that existed mainly because you wanted comfort, not because you truly needed help. That little exercise will humble you fast. Then start fixing the environment. Meal prep more. Remove your saved cards. Cancel the subscriptions you barely use. Set simpler defaults. Because discipline is easier when your life is set up to support it. People who stay in control financially do not rely on motivation all day. They reduce temptation and friction-proof their habits. The fifth behavior is self-sabotage after progress, and this one is deeper than people think. Sometimes the moment people start doing better, they ruin it. They save for a month, then reward themselves with something stupid. They pay off debt, then immediately loosen up and start slipping. They finally get serious, then one emotional weekend wipes the whole thing out. Why? Because progress changes your identity, and not everyone is comfortable with that. Some people are so used to chaos that stability feels unfamiliar. Being the guy who always struggles with money has become part of how they see themselves. So when things start improving, there's tension, there's discomfort, and they unconsciously pull themselves back to what feels normal. This is why people say they want a better life, but their habits keep dragging them back into the old one. They don't just fear failure. They also fear becoming someone different. That hurts your future because every relapse becomes evidence against yourself. You start thinking, see, I knew I wouldn't stay consistent. And once your identity gets involved, behavior gets harder to fix. Because now it's not just about money. Now it's about who you believe you are. So here's the shift. Stop rewarding financial progress with financial self-destruction. That makes no sense. If you save money, do not celebrate by becoming the old version of yourself again. Reward yourself in ways that do not wreck momentum, better experiences, time with people you care about, a planned purchase you can actually afford. Something clean, not chaotic. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect with a system behind it. So let me give you a practical reset because awareness is great, but if you do not change the system, you'll just keep repeating the same cycle with more insight. First, audit your last 30 days of spending. Not vaguely. Actually look at it. Every charge. Every order, every random purchase. I want you to see the truth in full because most people live in denial about how emotional their money habits really are. They remember the big purchases, but they forget the little leaks that happen every week. Second, identify the emotional pattern behind the spending. Was it stress, boredom, insecurity, loneliness, reward seeking, convenience addiction? Figure out the emotion before you obsess over the category, because two people can spend money on the exact same thing for completely different reasons. One person buys food because they're busy. Another person buys food because they cannot handle being alone with their thoughts for 30 minutes. The behavior matters, but the reason matters more. Third, separate your spending into three buckets. What was necessary? What was genuinely enjoyable and intentional? And what was emotional, impulsive, or validation based? This part matters because not all spending is bad. Some spending adds real value. The goal is not to become cheap and weird. The goal is to stop lying to yourself. Fourth, create friction before buying. This is the smart way. Delete saved card details. Unfollow accounts that trigger dumb spending. Use a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. Do not shop when you're angry, tired, bored, or trying to feel better. That one rule alone will save some people hundreds every month. Fifth, automate your good behavior. Move money into savings or investing automatically as soon as you get paid. Do not leave all your money sitting there waiting for your emotions to assign it a job. That is a losing game. Money with no direction usually gets consumed by impulse. And finally, tie your money to a bigger identity. This is the real upgrade. Stop thinking like someone who is constantly trying not to mess up. Start thinking like someone who protects his future. Someone who does not need to look rich because he is becoming stable. Someone who does not spend to escape emotion because he can actually sit with himself. That is a different kind of man. And once that identity becomes real, the behavior starts changing with it. So if you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Emotional spending is not random. It is a pattern. And if you do not deal with the pattern, more money will not save you. It will just give your bad habits a bigger budget. You do not have a money problem first. You have a behavior problem, an identity problem, and an emotional regulation problem that keeps showing up in your finances. Fix that, and your money starts acting different too. Your wallet usually reflects your habits before it reflects your income. And the man who can control himself will always beat the man who keeps chasing relief. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Hit that subscribe button.